So while I smoke the ganja, I can have my Savior and Lord Jesus Christ here in my candle. And he's a pretty hot Jesus. I mean, he's pretty good looking in this candle. Chad, Happy
Yeah.
New Year.
Happy New Year, ladies.
Happy stinking New Year. How's it going?
Yeah.
How's it
Oh,
going?
it's fine. Yeah, it's things are going great. I don't know. Let's see. I don't know how detailed you want me to be with that answer, but no, it's going
You've
good.
been skiing, you've been adventuring.
Well, so here's the deal. Usually from like Thanksgiving until the end of the year, like I start slipping into depression. And because like the days
Oh,
get shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. And then like also my job, like the nature of my work just slows down towards the end of the year. So thankfully like my bosses and everyone's like really cool to like, yeah, go out and do stuff or whatever. But like I realized this year that like no matter what I do, I just I think I just fucking hate Christmas still. And it's not really cult related. It's just I think it goes back to like high school. And there's just something like this stress and this pressure and the days getting shorter as you're leading to that day. And I think people who really enjoy Christmas expect it to be like it's on the movies, like a Hallmark movie, and it's just this wonderful, beautiful time with family, and everyone's just in great spirits, and it's just this time of love, and like, that's bullshit. It's never been that way for me in my life ever, and maybe as a kid, right? But like, I don't know. For the longest time, it's just this stressful thing. You worry about finances and you worry about all kinds of stuff. And it's just really, at the end of the day, just this commercialized holiday to push sales. And it brings out the worst in people, you know? And so, anyway, so I was trying to like plan around that and like prepare for that. And even still, when Christmas came, I was actually, this is going to sound sad, but it wasn't sad. But I was by myself on Christmas Day officially, but I had been with people before that. But even when that day came, I was like, this sucks. Like everything's closed, like, you know, and it's not really until after Christmas is over that then I really like snap out of it. And like I get excited about New Year's, and I just realized that I go through this mental process of just waiting to get past that. And I'm just kind of filled with dread as, you know, as it gets closer. But once it's behind, I'm like, whew, all right, let's have some fun now.
Chad, I felt that 100% this year.
It's almost like Christmas is just this inconvenient holiday that happens between a fun, you know, great holiday being Thanksgiving and an awesome, fun holiday of New Year's. And then it's just this one that pops up and, you know, here in the US and basically across the world, you know, any Christian, you know, they Christianize that. Other people celebrate it for different reasons, but the original date itself, the reason why there's a holiday period, as we know, Tony, is that it was actually more of a, you know, it had pagan roots to celebrate winter solstice and the days becoming longer. I'm down with that. Like, I think that's great. And so whenever December 21st comes, I actually get excited about that because I know that that's going to be the shortest day of the year, and every day after that's going to become longer, even if it's not noticeable. But that's the trajectory that we're on.
we should celebrate
But
that. We should have a party on
that's
that
how I
day.
feel. Yeah, like, and there's all kinds of people who do observe solstice instead of Christmas, you know. But
Yeah.
so to me, I think the original meaning behind this winter celebration, like it was spot on. I love celebrating the seasons.
We
Mhm.
survived. We didn't freeze or starve.
Right.
Yeah.
Did it.
Yeah.
Tony, what
But
do you think
then,
of Christmas this year?
I love sitting by the Christmas tree, reading a book at night when the house is quiet. Like, I just personally enjoy that. I like the little quiet time, like with the kids and stuff like that. I think maybe because of the kids, I am kind of finding it magical. So maybe as I get older, it won't be. But I'm sort of enjoying it, but it is very stressful. But I really like buying gifts for people. That's
yeah,
really fun.
Yeah, normally I love making gifts for everyone, and I like this year it felt like the pressure was on for like I don't know what was different about this year, but like I wasn't feeling creative maybe. I used to love like making like gift baskets with like all these personalized gifts, but like this year I was just like it felt like a burden instead of like a gift.
yeah, I'm on the same page with you guys. Like, I think I would. Here's one thing I've been thinking about for a couple years now, but it really hit me more this year. I think I would be more excited about celebrating Christmas because I too enjoy giving gifts to people, but I hate like receiving gifts. It's like really uncomfortable to me. But I hate that there's like this like greedy energy around like the materialism of the holiday and stuff, and especially like when most of us are doing okay. Like when you think in global population, most people in the United States are doing all right. So there's really we don't ever really need anything, right? But it's turned into this custom of like this obligation where you have to do it. And so I've been trying to talk to my family, like, guys, we're all adults here. We all have jobs. We don't need anything. Like, instead of buying each other gifts, let's adopt a family. Like, let's actually do it for people who really need it. And like, because I guess I just don't like being part of that whole process of receiving things when I don't need it, but like, I do appreciate people thinking of me. And I did get good gifts from everyone this year, and so thank you, everyone. But
Okay, that reminded me of the
just,
accent. The way he said that reminded me of the accent and how he kind of bowed a little bit.
Oh yes, thank
thank
you.
you,
Thank you, everyone.
thank you.
Should
God
we
bless
go
you.
into the
God bless
accent?
you.
Should we just go with the accent segment straight out of the gate?
Hey,
Because
this is your show.
that's true.
It
I do.
is our show. That is scary. Okay, so we were talking earlier about how when you're in this cult, in this group, you tend to adopt an accent, a way of speaking. And we all get it.
And I've been practicing all evening. I wanted to see if I could mimic it, and I can't.
Yeah.
But I know what it is. It's like the inflectuation of your voice at the end of every sentence. And I don't know if
Right.
that's like hearing the sermons in a Korean accent and then just interpreting it that way, or if they teach you. I don't know. Is it taught to teach it that way, or will you guys
Well,
explain how that gets
no,
done?
yeah, there's no formal teaching of them sitting you down and saying you must speak like this. It's something that is adopted from listening, and because when you are new and you're a student, you kind of notice it, I think, but you're also so fascinated by how they're doing it that you're like, you just kind of pass it off. But then later, it's once you start teaching, it's you adopt these phrases in ways that are easier, less wordy ways and clearer ways to explain a complex point. And the thing that my parents always pointed out, the way they said like that inflection in the voice at the end, it kind of makes everything sound like a question, even if it's a statement.
Yeah.
And because that's also the strategy in the teachings, instead of it sounding like it's coming from us, like they're so against like, oh, this isn't my word, this is the word of God. Oh, and that kind of thing. And they play that game. And so a lot of the way it's spoken and the cadence and the mannerisms, it's done in this way it's like it's leading people. And so it gets them, instead of thinking of questions, it helps them just follow your point without interrupting. And it's kind of this hypnotic way of doing it.
I used to hate that when I would do Bible studies, where it was that call and response thing where they'd say, and then this means what? And I would be like,
Right.
I want to interact with you. I just want to, I don't want to answer because I'm not really, it's like a way of being like, are you paying attention? You feel almost like you're in like grade school where the teacher's like, now you read this passage. And I'm like, I don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
You do.
Well, even in the service time when the pastor's talking to all the people, you have to interact with him by saying amen.
Yeah, amen.
Yeah, but he also asks questions too, and then all the congregation answers all together. You know what I mean? So like
we played a clip in one of our episodes where the pastor says, and that means what? And then everyone says, la la la. They fill in the word for him.
False prophets.
Yeah.
Father, mother, Passover. It's all these
and everybody says it together, and it's this like really like beautiful moment of unison, and you feel like you're part of something good, right, Chad? It feels good when you're in it.
You are part of something. It's a cult.
Yeah, true.
Right. I would say there is that there is that feeling, that warm feeling of inclusion and being a part of something. But I also think that once you're in there for a while and you've studied a lot, or you're trying to learn complex subjects to teach, and get to a higher level of teaching, a lot of that participation becomes a way of showing off, though, too, because you also want to show that you have really good understanding, because that's something that's like desirable, because if you're the one over here is sitting through service and you've been there for a good year or two, and the pastor's asking a question and you don't know the answer, you're like, oh shit, I don't have the Holy Spirit. So you just like kind of pretend. But
Right. That wouldn't happen. Like,
yeah, you just, even if you're mumbling, you're like kind of look
right.
at, what did everybody say? Blah!
Right.
But you don't, you definitely want to give the appearance that you know what's going on. Like that becomes a thing that like it's expected, and it's a way that's kind of like one of the sins I guess you can commit within the church, is just like that internal, that mentality, your ego of wanting to show off, of how deep is your understanding. Like that's like what makes you special in that group, instead of being like, successful person in the world with material things or a good paycheck. It's like in the church, like your spiritual wealth is like your knowledge and your understanding.
I was thinking that's like a currency.
Yeah.
Like that's your currency is like, how good are you at preaching? How many fruit can you have? Chad, we had an idea.
Okay.
Tell us what you think. What if me and you have a conversation as if we were in the church? Like as if we were still in there, Deacon Chad, Deaconess Tony. What kind of conversation would we have, and how would we speak to each other? And Lindsay can be an outsider.
Trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning.
Yeah, trigger warning. It might trigger me. Okay, hold on. Let me smoke.
Well, yeah, I'm glad my gummies have kicked in already. But but one thing, in all honesty, is that this conversation may or may not actually take place. The fact that we're deacon and deaconess, like we could get away with some things, but in all reality, brother and sister shouldn't be having a conversation. So
true.
There would be like brother.
But we
sister,
did
sister.
Speak though.
But yeah, like
in the church, not a lot.
I talked. Eventually I got to the point where like, look,
Chad talked to everybody.
Yeah, I talked to everyone. I'm
That's why they thought you were weird.
Yeah, I like talking to everyone. I talk to homeless people. Like, that's like one of that's something. Whenever I first left in that first year, and I'm just trying to like re-socialize, I would find myself literally telling my story to anyone. I would be talking to homeless people like downtown. I'm like, bro. And they would be listening. They're like, that's crazy shit, man. I'm like, yep. But it was seriously, I would be just talking to strangers just to like get it out, So I appreciate all those humans. But it's crazy, like church said, don't talk to them. And later I was, without even thinking about it. Like it wasn't even a thought, it was just like, hey, here's someone who looks like they'll listen. He's not going anywhere.
Wow.
You want $5? Awesome. Let me tell you my story real quick.
That's awesome.
You're going to earn this shit.
It just shows how important it is to tell your story, that you will even tell it to somebody that's homeless, and how much we want to tell our stories and how healing that is, I think.
Yeah,
right?
Because it feels good. It does feel good when people listen. Like listening is a powerful thing for healing, but it's just a powerful skill.
And how sad you had to find the homeless, that you had to find the homeless. They're the only ones that weren't too busy.
Yeah, right. Like I was like, all right, I got time for you two then,
That weren't too busy, and honestly, you probably were not afraid of. You weren't probably thinking that they would judge you because they're homeless. Mm-hmm. How could they judge you?
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, and at that point in life, I didn't feel.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that rude? That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying, like, I don't think a homeless person would be very judgmental. Like, it's probably a safe place to go and confess your problems.
Tony still discriminates against the homeless.
Still hard.
Homeless people
matter. Damn. Heart of
homeless
stone. I'm going to start calling you Stony instead of Tony.
I have been called that many times in my life, but not because of that. But
Yep.
no, okay.
I'm with you.
You know, I love the homeless. You know, I love
Yeah,
the
of
homeless.
course
Okay.
you do.
The unhoused
But
population. I love our unhomed
yeah,
population.
and I wish the government would do more to help out.
Oh, me
There's a lot of things
too.
that could be done.
And we've been
Yeah.
thinking about this recently. There are places for, domestic violence victims or,
Mhm.
children that are homeless. But I personally know that many members were
Yeah.
taken to the homeless shelter. Chad, do you
Yeah.
remember
I
me
remember.
and you
Yeah.
took,
Did we have a fruit together? Was
she
she
was
our
my fruit.
fruit? She was
She
your
was
fruit, but
my
I just
fruit.
helped you out. Yeah. Okay.
So our
I was like, I
pastor
didn't get
sent
fruit.
me and Chad to take a woman and her 3 children to
Yeah.
a homeless shelter downtown. And we had to sit there and wait for them, to do all the intake. And it was so awful. And it was
Hmm.
like, now looking back, I'm like, oh my God, how could we do that as a church? How
Yeah.
could we send oh, she wasn't healthy. Like she was like in
Yeah.
bad health.
She was in poor health, but she had beautiful kids. Like
Oh, they were so
her oldest son,
beautiful.
I love that kid,
Why
and
did they get sent to the homeless shelter?
they were already homeless, I believe, if I'm not
No, I think
mistaken.
they were having financial problems, She was having
Okay.
health problems.
Okay. So when
And I
she
think
joined the church, she was not homeless.
no, she wasn't.
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, whenever I started helping you out, it was because she was homeless, and they're like, send Deacon Chad there so that you're safe and we can get him home. And, it was because it's a rough part of the city and everything. But I just remember whenever we would pick him up or drop him off, like she just had such a like embarrassed look, and just a look of shame of like us taking her there. Like she was grateful to us, but also embarrassed about her situation. And we would talk about that. I remember we would like drive back to the church, talking about like how heartbreaking that was, but like also thankful to father and mother that she was
Right.
part of
This
the
is
church.
father and
And
mother's will. So we would say, oh, this
Mhm.
is her cross to bear. This is once she overcomes this, she'll be so blessed. Right.
Do
We
you
can
think
have
she'll
this
try?
conversation. Do you want to have a fake conversation of us driving
Okay.
home after dropping off a homeless
that,
girl?
that's a good scenario.
That's a pretty sad one. We could do a funny
Yeah.
one or we could do a sad one. What are
Well,
you guys in the mood for?
let's do both.
All right. All right.
I mean,
All right.
whatever.
So we just
Okay.
dropped her off,
Perfect.
okay? Close the
Here's
door.
the
Yeah.
scene. Here's the scene. You guys drop her off and then you go back and have Korean barbecue. That's the scene.
Probably.
Oh,
No, probably not. We probably had to race back for preaching meeting. Or
yeah.
Chad had to race back so that he could baptize somebody.
Yeah. Or we had orchestra practice, or
Or had to
if it was like
pick the
after
toilet.
service and we're taking her home. Yeah. Yeah, seriously. Yeah, we started a construction project after church because we're having a seminar the next day.
Have to rebuild the sanctuary.
Yeah, we have to tear it down and rebuild it in 12 hours.
Ready, go.
And
Get all the monsters you can.
yeah, we're get an IV of Monster and also empty your bank account and maybe make some time to go donate plasma for some extra cash. Yeah.
Members would do that.
People were selling their cars and quitting jobs and just living off of donation money from plasma or blood. Yeah, I guess just plasma. But
Or
like
family
they were going
members.
they were going to the point where they were being asked to not go anymore by the clinics because they're like, this is not healthy for you. Like we can't let you do this. And then they would be all upset because they're expecting
They're like, I
money.
need to tithe.
Yeah, then I need a tithe, or oh, I got to pay rent, and
Mhm.
then they're not able to pay rent even though it's like $120 at the time, and they don't have any money because they chose not to work. It's crazy.
My question is, didn't you guys have so many places, like little apartments in the sanctuary? Why didn't that lady just live there?
Oh, you had to be a
Well,
gospel
she's
worker
not a
to do that.
worker.
Oh.
Yeah, and so because she was homeless and didn't have a good, what they called physical situation, that was one requirement to be a gospel worker, is to be able to manage your finances and stuff like that, even if it was just a little bit of money. But if you could pay your bills and tithe and offering and all that kind of stuff and attend to every single event, that's how you become a worker. Like you do
Oh,
it all.
And Tony, didn't you guys pay rent while you lived there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Like I remember paying rent too, when even in the big church, and it was like all it was the tiny ass bedroom that we made up there. Like,
Right.
and it was
Oh,
like
I saw
$350, or it was expensive to live at the church. I was like, oh
Right.
shit.
I saw where
Like,
they lived. I saw that room where Tony and her family lived.
yeah.
You
I
did.
installed, me and another deacon installed all those air conditioning units in those apartments above the sanctuary. And I'm pretty sure we built those rooms too, like not me personally, but I think the church did that because I don't think those rooms were like that necessarily. And so they made them smaller so more people could be up there. But like they were those they weren't even window units. They were actually Korean plug-in ones made by like LG. And then like the hose goes out the window though, all the heat. So anyway, I did all that work and plus a few other AC units around the state. So have you all read Animal Farm? Or did you, or do you remember what it's about?
I read it in high school. It's been a long time. I'm going to reread it.
You have to reread this, okay? It's going to blow your mind because there's definitely this authoritarian mindset. Like you don't question the leadership. What they say goes. They're always right. And they can change things on a whim. They even changed songs. They had these songs that they would sing, and then later like they changed that. And they're like, oh, no, we're not singing that anymore. WMSCOG has done that with new songs. They've done that with chapters of the Green Book. Like they've done it in so many ways where they remove it, and then they say, oh, no, we never taught that. Oh, because
Oh
the
my
proof is
God.
gone.
Are you reading 1984 right now?
Yes, I am. Yeah. I just started that yesterday.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait. Just
And that's,
wait. Oh, I
yeah.
can't wait. I'm going to read Animal Farm and I can't wait for you to read. Because I
Yeah.
recently read
Yeah.
1984 again. It was like, oh my God, the way that they
Right.
try to change your,
Uh-huh.
like, no, I was there in
Yeah.
2012.
Yeah. Like I was
I told
there. I
people
witnessed.
that the world was going to end because that's what you told me was going to happen.
Yeah. Now that you're saying
Oh,
that we never said that. And
yeah.
that's exactly, yeah. I'm in like the 5th chapter of 1984 right now. So I think I just started it yesterday, but exact same thing, and same author. And so
Yeah.
his whole way of writing and the way that he can describe like the like psychology and just that element of just thinking and the thought process when you're in those kind of scenarios, it's like so spot on. It's amazing. And so even though he's talking about political regimes, I mean, it applies to religion, cults, any group that indoctrinates and any of that stuff. It's just. So the last time I was on the show, it was December of 2021. And it was season 1. So a lot has changed, a lot has happened in just a year's time. So I want to ask I want you guys to kind of just give a recap of what 2022 was like for you, whether it's personal or in terms of the show. What are some of the things that you're most proud of? Some of your successes, that kind of thing. And then later on, let's talk about some of the challenges. But start with just whoever wants to go first. But yeah, just kind of give a big picture of what was 2022.
I'll let Tony start.
I want to hear what you say.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, I think I could speak for both of us. When we started, like every listen, we'd be like, oh my God, another person listen. Oh my God, another person listen. We'd be like, dude, 20 people have listened to our episode.
Oh
We're
my
constantly
God.
checking our app, like
Every,
calling each other.
every day was like another milestone where we'd be like, when we get to 100, we have to go to dinner. When we get to 100, we have
That's
to go to
great.
dinner. And then like a week later, we'd be like, okay, once we get to 1,000, and it was just so quick. Like it just took off so much faster than we thought. So I would say the whole year was number one, pleasantly shocking at how
Yeah.
many people were listening and how many people were enjoying it.
Okay, so today is January 2023.
Mhm.
And I feel like the last 2022 was amazing because I feel like by making the podcast, we kind of grew a little network of
Mhm.
people
Mhm.
all over the world in a way. And I wasn't expecting that. I don't know why, but I wasn't expecting to like really get personal with the people that would be listening. But it's like really helping. I feel like it's helping all of us just get back to reality, get like realigned with what is what, help each other a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, just think of it this way. Before the podcast even started. So before the podcast started, we didn't have a presence on social media and a way for people to connect. So even though people were out, people were siloed, they were just by themselves. And so I think through creating a podcast, it's just from your earliest episodes, if you remember, you were just explaining, you both were just talking like, hey, we're just kind of doing this for my healing process and just to have a space to talk about it. And so at first it was really meant for you individually, but as it's evolved and you have more and more interviews, more people have come on, people have been able to, it's allowed a way for people to find each other. So then we can have ways to support each other even outside of the podcast. But then just now there's so much content that there's an episode it's kind of like a library. It's a resource and a tool where if someone's new or if they're thinking about coming out, we can pull up an episode and just send it to them, say, listen to this one, because they might have a great explanation in that interview. There's so many awesome former members who are fantastic at refuting the church doctrine or explaining some aspect. I mean, everyone's had a different skill set and different talent, and you really hear that through the podcast. But now it's become this thing that people really look forward to, and they're really excited to listen to. They kind of rely on it. It's become part of their recovery journey, where by listening to each episode, they feel connected to both of you. We've even had an opportunity to meet in person with a few of them. And that was like an awesome thing of 2022 of us actually, because it feels like we already knew each other, but then to be together, like make it official, that was a blast. And hopefully we can do more of that with more people in the future. But now, I mean, what season are you in now? Is it 6 yet or still 5?
We're still 5.
Okay, but 5 seasons in the past year. So you guys like put out mad content.
We did.
You guys stayed so busy with that.
Tony, do you have our stat off of Spotify for that?
We have 45 countries.
Damn, that's awesome.
We've recently added like 3 or 4 within the past few days. Countries that are very random that I would never expect. And we have listeners in 47 states.
47 states and 45 countries?
45 countries.
All right, so which country is the most surprising?
Ooh, the most surprising.
Well, they're all really random and surprising, but Tony and I have said that we're not going to say the actual countries anymore.
We can say which one is surprising, though.
We're worried that we're putting people out in certain places, and we don't want to ever put anybody in danger.
Lindsay doesn't want anybody to get murdered, she said.
I don't. Like, if you're in a country where, like, they, in America, they're not very nice to the members, but in some of the countries, I've heard stories that they're way worse to those members. So,
if you have stories, please send it to us. We'd love to hear from you.
A lot of these random countries, it might be, hopefully it's people who are leaving, but it could be existing churches and stuff too. So if that's the case and you're WMSCOG and you're listening, hello. Because we know, like, you guys suck at being like sneaky. You guys are horrible at it. And if it's anyone from Denver, I heard about the story that they told after me and Tony did our interview. Too bad you guys haven't listened to it yet. But anyway, I just think it's so funny that, like, I was calling them weird on the podcast, and then their rebuttal was to call me weird. So good job. That one really hurt, guys. You guys need to brush up your skills. You guys suck.
Man, Chad, we really want to have somebody on to defend them, if they want to defend, if they're listening, they can come defend themselves and we'll have a chit chat. But
that'll be triggering for you.
I do want to say though, you said a lot of really nice things. I do want to say, I think that when we were still in and just kind of starting to come out, I think that people were using the examining website
Right.
and using that platform to speak on the forums and stuff. But
Oh, and
that was
Great
supposed
Studios.
and Great Light Studios later.
Yeah. We're
Yeah,
not like
I was gonna say,
pioneers of
like,
this.
there are 3 essential modes that people can access
Dare
information,
we
and you
say
got
the Holy Spirit, the
we have a trinity going of recovery material. The Holy Trinity of recovery
Kind of like
is
H2O.
yeah, exactly. Because they're all one. They're all one, but they're 3. But anyway, so yeah, Great Light Studios, fantastic, very powerful, show at whatever it's called on YouTube. But Jordan's badass, great person. Loved his interview with you guys. But he's for someone who has dedicated so much time and has never been a member and understands the doctrine as well as he does, and the way he refutes it through the Bible for people who want to see it that way. I mean, that's the dude. Like, go watch his stuff. He's awesome. Let me how pastor would say it. If then, Church of God has so many surrender, the Church of God examining side, they say so many post things about our father and mother. They really wicked. They evil. What kind of mind? They really in heavenly kingdom, they try to kill our mother. I think that no hope. There can be no hope for salvation.
Oh my God. If I close my eyes, Chad, I could swear to God that I'm in pastor's office being rebuked right now. Oh my God. That is so creepy.
He would do the thing with his throat when he's like, and he emphasized when we say stuff like so many.
Oh,
they'd be like, so wicked. So.
I wish you guys could see Tony's face right now.
Oh my God. You don't know how spot on that is. Oh my God. And also how scary, I can't believe that we just let him yell at us the way we did.
Whose commandments? Whose commandments? Jesus. Jesus. I could do this all day if I knew if there wasn't so much pressure. Damn you guys.
Oh yeah, you have a song that you need to sing. You got a song.
Yeah, I have to learn those lyrics. It was what Jumper by Third Eye Blind is what Anthony was requesting.
Yeah, you got a song request in your accent. I don't know that song. You want me to play it?
You would jump out from the bridge, my friend. You could cut ties with all the rise we've been ribbing in. I don't know. I think that's the song that he's talking about.
I think Anthony should do it and then send it in to us.
Anthony, challenge. You get to do it, brother.
Brother.
Former Deacon Anthony.
That is that song.
Yeah, that one.
We can play 30 seconds for copyright rules.
Oh my God.
There you go, Anthony. This is for you. I would
understand. Pastor had a huge, barreling, booming voice, barrel chested.
Oh my God! And when he would sing, he could fill up a whole room with his voice.
It was almost scary of how whoa, it was startling,
power. Yeah.
Oh my God. Make your spirit jump. You're like, oh God, he must be a prophet. All right, so let's go back to so we're talking about 2022. So when you think about what your original intent was with starting the podcast versus where you're at now, what's different about it? How has it changed?
I knew that it was going to be for healing, but I didn't know what that meant. And I didn't know that meant going through traumatic experiences over and over again in my head. I didn't know that it would be going through others' traumatic experiences. And all of that was actually really difficult. Recording was difficult. Nightmares would happen continuously, which we have been talking about recently. A lot of a lot of our friends have been having nightmares. But it's been amazing because I feel so good now and a lot better. I mean, obviously, we'll never be totally better, but
I think Tony and I have mentioned this a few times in the last few episodes, but we both started therapy for the first time. Okay, we gotta like get some professional help.
I mean, I think everyone should do therapy, but I think I can relate to what you both have gone through with this. Like, it would be a mistake to not give yourself that time and space to do your own healing and just sacrificing yourself continuously trying to help other people when you yourself aren't really capable of helping fully, you
I
know?
it seems like a lot of survivors come out of the cult and then it's automatic to just ignore what happened to us.
Right.
I think it's like it's probably a defense mechanism. We don't want to know or really understand what happened to us. It's scary to look back at those things. So a lot of us shut it off and don't want to think about it. And then just
Hmm.
go in our life. But then later it will manifest into other things, you know. So
Yeah,
I think it was important for all of us together. I feel like the podcast sort of turned into a community,
it did. Yeah.
so it kind of forced all of us to face it, what we went through. And even though it was scary and it was dark, but we did it and we came through on the other side. I think that, that's been the greatest ththing.
It has become a community and it's part of the Holy Trinity. So, but
Amen.
yeah, amen. So,
Amen.
but you said something earlier that is interesting though, because when you first started answering, you said that you knew when you were starting the podcast, it was going to be for your healing, but you didn't know what that meant. What have you found that it means?
Okay, I found that it means facing it head on,
Hmm.
going with it, and even if it's difficult and painful, acknowledging it and accepting it and moving forward instead
Right.
of ignoring it and hiding it. I hid so many things for a long time from my family, from my friends. Lindsay didn't know that I baby spit, and now she knows.
Well, that's
Right.
why
Right.
it's interesting because I'll hear somebody that we're interviewing and they'll tell a story, and then I'm like, "Did you see that? Like, did that happen to you, Tony?" And then she's like, "Oh yeah, of course." And I'm like, "Oh,
Every day. Yeah. Well, that's what's so cool about the podcast because I think it's really hard on a human level to be able to verbally explain every angle and every aspect of a cult experience. So, getting to hear many different stories, there are these layers or these angles that get pulled back, or you get a different glimpse, and it's something that as a member, it's like, oh yeah, and you forget, you're like, yeah, that was something, and so it's really been awesome to have this collection of stories and that more are coming, right? And so let me ask you this. So as you were talking about through what healing means and facing it head on and acknowledging everything, and have you found that as you've gone through that process, are are you able to see yet how some of those experiences have given you an advantage in life and allow you to have an edge or upper hand on other people who have never been through something like that, like say whether it's in a work setting or a social setting, whatever, but have you noticed anything like that yet?
So let me say like this isn't about me specifically, but among the survivors that I see every single one of us, not me, I don't know, but anyway, I see everybody excelling in whatever it is that they're doing and rising
Right.
to the top. And I think that
Right.
that's really interesting,
Hmm.
because every single person is somebody who has a drive that is higher than most, I guess. And I think that that's really interesting.
Hmm.
But yes, I do. I am getting to the point where I can see through some of the bad things and see a lot of the good things. And some of those trainings that they put us through. I mean, I saw what I am capable of doing,
Hmm.
good and bad, right?
Right.
Good and bad. but the good, like I know what I'm able to endure. I know that I can go without eating for 3 days. I know that I can survive out in the cold if I had to, or you know, live off of MREs. I know certain also more mental things that I can endure, because we suffered. Like
Yeah.
we were so proud of our suffering.
Right.
We
Right.
wanted
It
to
became
suffer
a
like
sign of
lions.
honor. Yeah, like a
Yes,
badge of honor. The
yes,
more you suffer, the more blessed you were. Yep.
yes.
If you've left and you're like filling out a resume,
Hmm.
really think about the skills that you actually learned, even if they're not
Yep.
from like a past job. Think of the skills that you actually had to do secretarially or like management wise, because so
Right.
much of
Right.
that was done.
Janitorially, like how much we cleaned. I'm literally a professional cleaner, and I'm also a chef because of how much time we spent in the kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
But no, that's a good point about the resume because, so I work in recruitment and I look at people's resumes all the time. I help people with like career development and all that kind of stuff. And I absolutely did that with my resume. And the thing is, so any skill you learned or any kind of responsibility, anything that is like job related, you can put that on your resume and just put it under volunteer and
Yeah.
that's how you do it. You put it as a volunteer opportunity.
They're claiming you guys as volunteers as their taxes on their taxes. So
Right.
Seriously, I
don't
was
claim it
Yeah.
on your
paying them.
No,
I
you
was We
absolutely
were
can use
doing
it
the
as part
work.
of
The
experience.
work was valid. We were working hard
Yeah.
every single day. It was just labor. It was just slave labor. It was labor
I put on my resume for that, or at least on my LinkedIn profile. I put my what I did. My duty was membership recruitment, and because we every single day we're recruiting people, and so whenever I apply for recruitment jobs, I just explained, yeah, this was door to door and face to face recruitment. It wasn't corporate recruitment, and they're like, oh, okay, and it makes sense to them. I'm like, all right, I'm like, there we go. And
Mhm.
so, and the more experience you add on your resume, then the more you'll get paid. Little tip, friends.
I got over a decade of cult leadership
Yep.
experience.
Yeah. It's people management. So
I
like
mean, God,
if
it's a
you're
lot.
applying
Like
for
seriously, you
management
do
roles.
learn a lot of skills. You learn a lot of really good skills when you were in there, when you're a leader in there.
So Lindsay, what do you, from your perspective, what have you seen with Tony now that she's out and as she's recovering and everything? What are the things that stand out to you about her where you see this kind of evolved person and stronger, these good qualities from that experience? What have you noticed?
The first one that comes to mind, I would say, is creating boundaries. I'm very proud of her for that. We've both been bad at that in our lives. And
Mhm.
Tony was, 12 years without the experience outside. So watching her be able to like rebuild her boundaries and know when she can say, no, you know what, I don't want to do that. Yeah, just seeing her like find enjoyment in things again, like will she be like, oh my God, did you hear this like Kanye West album from 2010? And I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah, I heard
that's
that
fun though.
a long time ago, like she's rediscovering the world again, which is really fun to watch. Like, oh
Right.
my gosh, have you ever seen the show? And I'm like, yeah, that came out like 10 years ago.
Yeah. It's called The Office. I think it's new. Yeah.
Yes, I think it's new. It's his new show. It's so funny.
That's
Uh,
exactly that was my thing. But it was music too. But one of like my family laughed and they thought it was adorable when I was going through that. But honestly, that was one of my most like fun times of recovery, of rediscovering the world and the things I missed out on, the music I missed out on, the movies, the shows, like just pop culture in general. And I'm not down with all of it, but there's certain things where I'm like, oh my God, this is the most incredible thing I've ever listened to. I felt that way like with Jay-Z and Kanye, like going back when I was trying to get caught up on hip hop and stuff. And I was like, good Lord, he is anointed. Oh, so I definitely felt that way. And I was just like, this is talent, to see like real skill and real talent compared to what was being acknowledged as skill and talent in the church. It's like,
I mean, there was so much art and music and
mhm.
all of that was still happening while you guys were in. And so, you have so much to catch up on when you leave. It's so exciting.
Yeah, it's fun. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, so let's move on and talk about the question you were going to answer before, Lindsay, about where, so we've kind of caught up of where we're at now. Where do you want to go?
Obviously, we're still going to do the interviews because those are
Mhm.
amazing. So everybody still send us emails if you want to be on or you have a story you want to share. Once a month, we want to do an episode where we focus on some kind of like alternative healing modality and then like share our experience with it. So
Cool.
like we
Yeah.
want to go get acupuncture and maybe find an acupuncturist to come on and talk about it. And then we can kind of pick their brain about it. Craniosacral therapy. Tony wants to try reflexology, and boom, I'm actually trained on reflexology. So I'm going to give Tony
Nice.
reflexology, and then she's
Nice.
going to report back the experience. So we're going to do that like once a month. We're going to do something to give everybody like different ideas and be like, this is kind of hokey. This is kind of cool.
But that's so fun having new experiences and just living experimentally and just being like open to things and stuff.
I'm excited to talk to everybody about EMDR and how that is helpful in trauma therapy. And so I'm just excited to see how all of these different things can help specifically with trauma. This year, I hope to unite more people in the cult surviving world. And I want us to, I don't know, find different ways to help each other and help others coming out.
So Tony was saying more of like a support group idea. Like she wants more of like a physical space, but we talked about the idea of making it first like an online space.
Mhm.
And I know that we've been tossing that idea out.
The hard thing about the WMSCOG is we're all so separate, so it's hard
Yeah.
to have a physical space together. However, there was a very violent crime recently in my neighborhood at a Jehovah Witness
Right.
Kingdom Hall. And
Yeah.
it really made me think that there are cult survivors in our direct communities that don't even know that they were in cults, or they don't know that they were in these high control groups. So I sort of want to also maybe make local connections and see if people need help within a local capacity, because I'm thinking, Chad, of us dropping off that poor woman and her children, right?
Hmm.
I mean, there has to be a resource for somebody like her, or somebody like so many others that we have heard were dropped off, to be homeless because they were no longer allowed to be church members. And that just seems so sad and
And the
awful.
people who come out and they just don't have a job, they don't know how to manage their finances. They've been cut off from the world for 12 years.
They might not have family and they're traumatized. They think they're going to hell.
Terrified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But no, I think this is great because what we're talking about isn't just something for this next year, but really what we're tapping into is something of what all this really could become in, even in multiple years, maybe 5 years from now, of it really being this big thing where it is more of a operational place that people can go, or a resource that they can have to reach out to for things, not just about understanding, deprogramming themselves and understanding why it was a cult, but like, okay, how do I manage money? How do I get a job? How do I do any of this stuff? And we all have kind of talked offline about just among us former members who are in our careers now, we all have a lot that we can contribute to that to help, create that, and so I think I love that idea, because it might be starting off as this healing journey in the Playing in Traffic podcast, but then grows into this other thing because it's brought people together. And through that, people can contribute to help people just like themselves, And so I love that vision. I definitely want to be a part of that. And it's not something that I think if that's just always maybe the end goal, because it sounds like for all of us, I think our calling and our desire as we live this one life is to still help people, and so there doesn't have to be a time limit on it and say we got to do it this year and then next year we're going to do something different. It's like that work's never done. So so yeah, I mean, if that's like the direction it goes, then that's awesome. It could look completely different than that, or whatever.
I'm thinking you guys all take your house church skills, but we convert a house instead of a church, and we make it the like local center for people who come in for resources and
The recovery house.
yeah, the recovery house.
And it's going to be a lot of addicts showing up, and we're like, ooh, sorry.
Ooh. Are you addicted to
Actually, I think the addicts are similar to the cold survivors,
Yeah.
But that is something that gives me confidence. So all of my confidence comes from being in there because, I started off as, just sort of like a shy young college student, but in there, I learned how to be a Bible teacher. I learned how to become a deaconess and how to overcome all those hoops that they make you go through all that suffering. So that gives me confidence that whatever I do, I can be really good at. And so I know that if we all put our minds together and we did something like this, whatever visions we have in the future, that it will work. Like I have, because I know what we can do, Chad. I saw us. I saw us working. When you get people together, I thought that was the Holy Spirit. I thought that was God. But now I realize that was us.
It was people who were connecting on a common goal and being connected through that. And that's that feeling of exhilaration. It's not the spirit of Ansang Hung or Zangil Jha. It's each individual person's spirit who's excited because you're believing in something and you're with other people who are like-minded, and that can exist in so many different things, when it comes to something that's related to your calling and your passion and, something that you have strong feelings towards. That's when it happens, is when you surround yourself with those types of people, and it's what I've learned about, like, say, just business in general is that, I'm not an entrepreneur, and I realize, like, even though I might understand the concepts of how to run a business, there are certain aspects where I need someone with a better skill set. I need someone who knows how to understand marketing better than I do, or this or that. And so it's the same where all of us who have this desire, like each one of us has a different skill set to bring to the table so that it's a collaboration instead of it being this individual pursuit that you're putting your life into. And that could possibly, every entrepreneur's, I think, fear is failure, or at least maybe that's their expectation. But that's the thing, is like, it's tough when you're just by yourself. But the more that you have a team and you're doing this together and sharing this common goal, the better your chances of success are, So, that's the beauty of diversity and all that kind of stuff. And that's the HR in me, because that's the world that I live in Monday through Friday. So
that's something we've talked about. We're like, we should monetize the podcast so we have money to like start something like this. And then I just keep going back to that. Like, I don't think that we will ever aggressively ask people who left a cult, who took all of their money, to become like membership. Like, I would never feel comfortable with that. So I think the route we want to go eventually, hopefully soon, is make merchandise.
Hopefully someday us being able to do like an annual retreat or convention kind of thing where we could have these different modalities of healing. So, the things that you guys might find out, if there's something that we could apply like at an in-person retreat one day, so that people could go do yoga or meditate or do acupuncture or whatever the case may be, art therapy. You have some of that going on, but then you have, people who need to be deprogrammed and they want to understand through the Bible. We got people who have the ability to show you why it's wrong.
Yeah, Jordan, come on.
Jordan, Anthony, Kelsey, all the three amigos. Like that's their whole territory. Like, I'll go sit in the back and be like, damn, they still got it. But and then but we could have like a financial wellness education seminar, and then and I would be happy to teach things about finding jobs and helping people like figure out their career path and do stuff like that. But then it could just be a time to just be fun, you know?
Yeah. Can we have a smoke room?
Hell yeah.
We got it. We have to do it in one of the legal states so Tony can have a pot room.
Yes.
Yeah. That's part of healing. Yep.
Happy
That's
birthday.
mandatory.
So fun, and we could all like microdose.
Oh, we could have mushrooms in Colorado. That's going to be legal soon. Oh, it's legal now. It's January, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Here we
Happy
go.
New Year. I don't know that we're allowed to like pass out mushrooms. I don't think that.
Oh, damn. I don't have
I'll just
any.
give people the keys to my car.
If you want to do mushrooms
look
at
around.
the retreat, we won't call the cops. We won't tell.
Yeah.
We'll create a
Oh, I would be interested. Oh, Lindsay, we should put that on our list.
Yeah,
Just
you guys
do
have you not tried
medicinal
that yet?
mushrooms. We could do
Yeah.
psilocybin, but they have it where you could do it with a therapist.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
they
yeah.
walk you
You need
through
it.
it. Put that on the
Yeah.
list.
All right. Please, everybody listening, send us more ideas if you have a really good one. If you got one right on your tongue, send us an email right now. Because right now we have reflexology, acupuncture, craniosacral therapy, meditation, gong bath. Can't wait for that. Getting our tarot cards read, EMDR and talk therapy, which we're both doing already. Going to a break room, just because that would be fun.
Smash, where you can smash things.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that sounds cool. So here's kind of the next part of the question. So we have this dream, we have this vision and this goal of where we want to go.
A few episodes ago, Lindsay wrote a letter to Mother, and she read it out loud. And it was sad and funny, and it made me start to think, if I could write a letter to Mother now, what would it say? And I started, and I wrote a letter to Mother. Oh, I'm sorry, not Mother, Zongilja. I wrote a letter to Zongilja. It was harder than I thought, and I actually couldn't finish it. So me and Lindsay had an idea that if any of you listeners would like to write a letter to Zongilja now, knowing what you know now and everything that you've been through, if anybody would be interested in submitting that, whether it's through email or through a voice memo, and then maybe we could read it, and it could help me get through my letter to Mother.
So,
Mother.
yeah, I'm really curious to know what you're going to come up with, because I want to know what that letter says and what you have to say to her.
It's a little bit angry, a little bit sad.
Well, that's definitely a letter you need to write without fear.
Yes.
Right from be the aggressive one in the letter to them, because she's just going to be like, oh, God bless you. Ticketes, Tony, oh, the hard picture, hard. Father, come soon, yeah? Yeah.
Oh my God, we have to end. We have to end with Chad's New Year's message as Mother.
God bless you. Happy news user. Baby, preacher harder. I love you.
Boom.
Baby. Okay, let me
Really,
hear
like,
here then.
What
I'm
did
just
you just say?
I was like, huh?
Oh my God, Lindsay.
Yeah. Oh, are we starting? Oh, damn.
Yeah,
Okay.
let me hit record.
Basically, what George Orwell, his whole inspiration in writing the book, it was about the Soviet Revolution and about totalitarianism and all that stuff, right? So it's fictional, but so that's the point of the book. But when I read it, I got something completely different, because there's all these parallels with these authoritarian governments and basically like how a cult is managed and how it operates, right? And I mean, as you read it, you'll see like, so basically all these animals in Animal Farm, they're supposed to like represent different leaders in the Soviet Union and all that kind of stuff. But basically how it starts out is there's Old Major, and he's this like huge boar, and he's like a prophet. And so he gathers all the farm animals together, and he has this dream, and he's telling them basically a day of this revolution is going to come, and how basically, all the humans are the enemy, and really the animals are meant to be free. And like and they're all equal and all this kind of stuff. And it really inspires them. And then he dies the next day. So then eventually, like after some time, then this revolution happens, and then this farm becomes managed by the animals themselves. And you see this whole indoctrination process that happens because they take the teachings of Old Major, the prophet, and later those become the 7 teachings, the 7 commandments, basically. And at first, like everybody's on the same page and everything's going great. Life has never been better for them, and they're all that. Each animal like is smarter than the other and that kind of thing. So, but they're all trying to learn these teachings, and they have these phrases and lingo and all that kind of stuff. And then little by little, so there's these 2 pigs. The pigs are the smartest, and so these 2, they're kind of running this movement. But then eventually, there's this like falling out, where this one pig, Napoleon, he kind of like basically makes the Snowball, the other pig, makes him, even though he was good, he like drives him off and makes Snowball look like this bad person. And little by little things start changing. And but all this bad stuff is always blamed on Snowball or like humans, like this invisible enemy. There's never any proof that like Snowball's running their work or running their projects or spreading these lies. But they start gaslighting them one by one because they start changing these teachings. And because these people aren't so smart and they just kind of accept what they say, like there's even these sheep who just constantly just like, they're so dumb that they just repeat what they hear. And anyway, so the teachings eventually changed where it was like, I thought we weren't supposed to live in the beds, because these pigs eventually start living in the main farmhouse where the humans used to live, and they start like enjoying all the luxuries of the enemy. And so people are noticing it and they're seeing it, and they start asking questions. But every time, whenever they respond, they have changed it a little bit. And they're like, oh, we didn't say you couldn't sleep in beds. You can't sleep in beds with sheets. The whole commandment's against sheets. Of course, we all need to sleep in beds. You all sleep in beds in the barn. We're no different. And everyone eventually, like, they just accept it. And it continues on and on and on like this in so many different scenarios. And then by the end, this thing that they thought they had been saved from, where they were so excited, later, like their whole lives like declined by this like evil, this wickedness within the leadership, that they finally realized that they are no better off than they were before this whole thing, this salvation ever took place. And there's like this kind of, I don't want to ruin the end, but there's basically, the point is that eventually like the pigs start learning to walk like humans, and they used to have a saying that was 4 legs are good, 2 legs are bad. And the sheep would always be saying this. And then eventually the pigs start learning to walk on their hind legs, and they start replicating everything that they said was evil, to the point where they're indistinguishable. Like they're drinking alcohol, they're doing all this stuff while everybody else is suffering. And so there's just so many parallels of like what it's like to be in any cult. But I found so many, as like the way it's written, as you read it, you'll just like be like, oh my God, this reminds me of blah, 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 you know? So